The trade war between the United States and China is about more than just money. It is a high-stakes battle for global economic and technological dominance. The two superpowers are locked in a struggle for influence, resources, and the future of the global order. This rivalry has far-reaching consequences, impacting businesses, consumers, and international relations around the world. The US and China are the world's two largest economies. They are deeply intertwined through trade, investment, and technology. However, this economic interdependence is also a source of tension. The US has long accused China of unfair trade practices. These practices include intellectual property theft, forced technology transfers, and currency manipulation. China, in turn, argues that the US is trying to contain its rise as a global power. The trade war is a symptom of this deeper power struggle. It is a sign of the growing rivalry between the two countries and the challenges they face in managing their complex relationship. The seeds of the trade war were sown decades ago. China's economic transformation began in the late 1970s. The country adopted market-oriented reforms and opened up to foreign investment. This led to an unprecedented period of economic growth. China became the world's factory, producing goods for consumers around the globe. In 2001, China joined the World Trade Organization, or WTO. This move further integrated China into the global economy. It gave Chinese companies greater access to foreign markets. China's economic rise had a profound impact on the United States. American businesses benefited from access to a vast new market and lower-cost labor. However, the surge in Chinese imports also led to job losses in U.S. manufacturing. The U.S. trade deficit with China soared. This fueled concerns about unfair Chinese trade practices and their impact on American workers. The surge in Chinese imports after China's WTO entry had a significant impact on the U.S. economy. Economists refer to this as the China shock. Millions of manufacturing jobs were lost in the United States, particularly in industries like furniture, textiles, and electronics. The job losses were concentrated in specific regions of the country. These regions often lacked the resources to help workers transition to new industries. The China shock contributed to economic anxiety and social unrest in these areas. The political backlash to the China shock was significant. It fueled support for protectionist trade policies. Politicians from both parties began to call for a tougher stance on China. The China shock highlighted the challenges of globalization. It showed that while free trade can bring economic benefits, it can also lead to job displacement and economic hardship for some communities. In 2017, Donald Trump took office as President of the United States. He had campaigned on a promise to get tough on China. Trump argued that China was engaged in unfair trade practices that were harming American workers and businesses. In 2018, the Trump administration imposed tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods. This marked the beginning of the trade war. China retaliated with tariffs of its own on U.S. products. The trade war escalated quickly. Tariffs were imposed on a wide range of goods. These goods included soybeans, automobiles, and electronics. Businesses on both sides of the Pacific felt the pain. The trade war had a negative impact on the global economy. It disrupted supply chains, increased costs for businesses and consumers, and fueled uncertainty in financial markets. A short-lived truce, the Phase 1 deal. In January 2020, the United States and China signed a Phase 1 trade deal. This agreement was intended to de-escalate the trade war. China agreed to increase its purchases of American goods and services. The deal also included provisions on intellectual property protection and currency manipulation. However, the Phase 1 deal did not address the underlying issues in the U.S.-China trade relationship. The COVID-19 pandemic further strained relations between the two countries. The pandemic caused disruptions to global supply chains. It also led to increased demand for medical supplies and other goods. This heightened tensions over trade and economic competition. The Phase 1 deal proved to be a temporary truce. The underlying tensions and distrust between the two countries remained. The battle for technological supremacy. Today, the US-China trade war has entered a new phase. The focus has shifted from tariffs to technology. Both countries see technological dominance as essential to their economic and national security. The United States is concerned about China's growing technological prowess. It has taken steps to restrict China's access to sensitive technologies. These technologies include semiconductors and artificial intelligence. The US government has blacklisted Chinese tech companies like Huawei. It has also pressured allies to exclude Huawei from their 5G networks. China is investing heavily in research and development. It is determined to become a global leader in emerging technologies. The competition for technological supremacy is likely to be a defining feature of the US-China relationship for years to come. A world divided, global implications. The US-China trade war has had a profound impact on the global economy. It has disrupted supply chains, increased costs for businesses, and fueled uncertainty in financial markets. The trade war has also forced other countries to choose sides. Some countries have sought to benefit from the trade tensions by attracting investment and trade that might otherwise have gone to the US or China. Others have been caught in the crossfire. The trade war has accelerated the trend toward deglobalization. Countries are increasingly looking to reduce their reliance on a single trading partner, particularly China. This is leading to a restructuring of global supply chains. The trade war has also had geopolitical implications. It has deepened the rivalry between the United States and China. This rivalry is playing out in areas like security, diplomacy, and ideology. As the US-China trade war continues to unfold, emerging markets are feeling the ripple effects. Countries in Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia are experiencing both challenges and opportunities. Many emerging markets heavily rely on China for trade and investment. The slowdown in the Chinese economy has had a direct impact on these countries. Commodity exporting nations have seen a drop in demand for their resources, leading to economic slowdowns and financial instability. On the other hand, some countries are seizing the moment to carve out new niches. For instance, Vietnam and Mexico have become attractive alternatives for manufacturing, as companies seek to diversify their supply chains away from China. This shift is creating new growth avenues, but also bringing its own set of challenges such as labor shortages and infrastructure constraints. The US-China trade war has also prompted emerging markets to rethink their own trade policies and alliances. Many are striving to strike a balance between maintaining strong ties with both the US and China, while also seeking new partnerships to mitigate risks. Ultimately, the ongoing trade tensions between the world's two largest economies are reshaping the global landscape in unpredictable ways, forcing emerging markets to adapt and innovate to stay afloat. The road ahead: cooperation or confrontation? The future of the US-China trade relationship is uncertain. The two countries are likely to remain locked in a strategic competition for the foreseeable future. However, there are areas where cooperation may be possible. Both countries have a shared interest in addressing global challenges like climate change and pandemics. They also have a stake in maintaining a stable global economy. Whether the US and China can overcome their differences and find common ground remains to be seen. The outcome of the US-China rivalry will have profound consequences for the world. A cooperative relationship would benefit both countries and the global community. However, continued confrontation could lead to a more divided and unstable world. This video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's curious about the forces shaping our world. The story of US-China trade is far from over, and we'll be here to cover the next chapter. Thanks for watching.